Until recently, whenever an outsider kindred thought about the clan of death, they pictured the Giovanni family. Their origins stretch back before the Roman Empire when they were known as the Jovians. And the entire time, they've had their hands in kindred affairs. The original Giovanni family knows how to play the game better than anyone, crafting an identity as devil kindred to strike the right balance of fear and respect in their rivals and their relatives. The Giovanni family and the clan of vampires known as the Giovanni are not identical, but it was a useful fiction for centuries. However, now that the family reunion has caused a restructuring of the clan of death, the original family refuses to be left out in the cold. As much as some cousins would like to see the backside of La Famiglia. The true Giovanni aren't just going to stand by and let thousands of years of family history get tossed out due to some political convenience. They are the top dogs, and they'll murder to retain that position. After all, no one fights like a family. Greetings, Kindred. I am Voivode Maquette, and welcome back to our world of darkness and another Metaplot Monday. We're going to be going after another lore sheet. This time, the La Famiglia Giovanni, which is a Bloodline Hecata character-only lore sheet. This is a fun one because it covers the typical Giovanni who we, as fans of the World of Darkness and Vampire the Masquerade, have come to know as the Clan of Death. They did not start off that way. Of course, we all know that they were the Cappadocians originally. And that's something that I think a lot of us take for granted as knowledge, because I think that most of us stop realizing that is out of character information. A lot of us meet the Giovanni and just go, oh, well, here's the usurpers of the Cappadocians. When in reality, unless we've been around for 500 years, we should not know that. And even then, can 500 years of memory really go without being judged by time? I like the idea of elder vampires being stuck with the limitations of human processing, where the longer you're alive, the harder it is for you to really retain what was real and what might be imagined, or what might just be stories that you remember over time. It kind of makes it a lot of fun when you look at Nodus lore like that. If individual vampires don't actually know whether or not antediluvians exist or if Cain exists. We are stepping a little bit out of line on this one, however. I think that's probably a topic of conversation for another day. Right now, we need to focus on La Famiglia Giovanni. We need to focus on the true family of the Giovanni. Because these are the guys who have been keeping things going in the public eye for half a millennia. The reason why the famous promise of 1528 exists. These guys are truly the monsters in the night when it comes to a lot of Kindred's conception of what is too far when it takes being a vampire. Now, there are other families which we've been covering in these lore sheets. The Duncerns, I believe, were one of the first families ever brought in, and it's because these humans, who happen to have some dirty secrets in their closets, had some very unsavory practices, and the Giovanni themselves were able to blackmail them into the family. The Milliners, again, also some dark secrets and also some amazing talents when it came to bookkeeping. They became useful, but the family Giovanni themselves, they started this rumor where they made themselves out to be these twice Familia incestuous beasts, which made other vampires uncomfortable to deal with them. And I think that was possibly a masquerade to keep everyone out of their business, to keep with the idea of what the 1528 promise was that the Camarilla will stay out of their business and they can just do what they want. The Sabbat will be out of their business, and that was primarily on the Giovanni's Giovanni's front line, is that they had to not do business with the Sabbat if they were going to keep that promise going as well. And I think it worked very well. Not all Giovanni are of the Giovanni family, and also not all Giovanni family members get embraced. There's a lot of them out there who don't even realize that their family are these vampiric, necromantic monsters. And where there is a good portion of them that do know that the family does harbor some deep secrets, and that's where their family fortune comes from, they would never believe how deep those secrets might actually be buried. So let's go ahead and hop into this lore sheet and see exactly what it has to offer the players who wish to play La Famiglia Giovanni. Investing one trait into this lore sheet gets you a cousin's ear. Even if family members hate each other, the whole family lives by a certain code to share information. That's how they've survived everything from the fall of the Roman Empire to the Second Inquisition. Once per session, you can ask a direct question of another member of the Giovanni family and get a straight answer. However, you have to answer a question in return. You can also ask a favor of a mortal member of the family once per story, as if you had the ally's background at 3 dots. This is probably one of the more basic thoughts on what the Giovanni are as survivalists. Yes, they are family, but you do not get something just because you're related. It very much is a quid pro quo situation. If you ask something of them, they are going to ask something of you. Unless you're talking about the younger members, the family, the warm members of the family. These mortals will do what you ask them to do, and you pretty much have a good guarantee that they're going to have high ranking in whatever form of influence they've decided to structure their lives in. Investing 2 traits into this lore sheet gets you faded glamour. Being a Giovanni still means something. Even if it's not your name on the clan anymore, old habits die hard, and the instinct to obey is still ingrained in much of the clan of death. Once per session, you can add 1 automatic success to any social roll against another Hecata kindred, ghoul or retainer. This part of the lore sheet kind of implies that the Giovanni still have that much power, and I think they might, truthfully, because of just social standing alone. It also kind of implies that there's a lot more Premesine than we thought. The Premesine were Cappadocians who supported the Giovanni family. This gives the impression that just because you hold the name Giovanni, just because that is your family name, others are going to respect you. And the whole lore in my mind that I've had on this is that the younger members of Clan Giovanni are still surviving within the Hecata because the Capuchin still sees use for them, that the Baron of the Zmeti still sees use for them. Also, that it's just easier to interact with kindred outside of the Hecata if they're still kind of kept in the dark. Most kindred in the games that I run still see the Giovanni as the clan themselves. And whenever the Hecata have need to send some type of ambassador or messenger of any kind, they send the Giovanni. In my games, I'm using the Giovanni as the errand boys. And in that personal canon that I'm running, I see that still being able to give you that automatic success in social situations because The Hikata, for the most part, think they still need the Giovanni, if anything, to keep the secret up. Because if the secret of 1528, and I know we mentioned that a lot here, but if that secret is so important to the survival of the Hikata, at least for the next 6 years as time of this filming, then perhaps the Giovanni do still have a place of high regard in the Hikata. Investing 3 traits into this lore sheet gets you petty cash. The Giovanni started as merchants, and they still know the power of cold, hard cash. As one of the favored children of the family, you have access to a substantial bank account. You get 4 dots to spread among the resources and retainers' backgrounds for free. But these dots can be pulled back by elder members of the family at any time, especially if you cross them. I love the fact that it says especially if you cross them, that they can pull the money out from underneath you. Because it implies that even though the Giovanni are no longer that powerful within the Hikata as they were, they still hold a lot of power in their own right amongst themselves, and they're still trying to go for those power digs. They're still trying to build themselves up on top and become more important in the family or more important with their own power structures. And being able to have those 4 dots of resources or retainers or a mix of whatever can help you out a lot in that kind of situation. Investing 4 traits into this lore sheet gets you Specter Servant. There's a lot the family is good at, but in particular they are excellent at enslaving the spirits of the dead to their will. You have inherited or personally captured a Specter to act as your servant. This acts as a 4-dot effectiveness ally, using the Specter stats in Vampire the Masquerade core book, page 377. The Specter wants nothing more than to break the leash and devour your spirit. Until then, they can be summoned once per session and will arrive within 10 hours. Specter Servant just kind of throws you right into what the Giovanni were always known for, as having those necromantic slaves. And depending on whether or not your character has the discipline mastery of Oblivion strong enough to be able to corral their own wraith or not is called into question here. I love the concept of you were chosen to inherit a wraith. This wraith could be so much older than you are actively in humanity. It could be a member of the family. It could be a captured enemy. Like, there's so many different reasons, and they'd all have reason to just want you dead because you're the one who's keeping them as a slave. It brings back the story in the clan novels about Isabella Giovanni, who does some pretty raunchy things to gain control of the wraith of her grandmother. It's just, I don't know, it's a very interesting concept. And I'm not even talking about just the fact that you get that strong of a wraith. A 4-dot effectiveness ally as a wraith can get you many, many things, even if you do have to wait 10 hours to get it. But, and I always roll a d10, by the way. I always roll a numbered dice to decide how long it's going to take those allies to get to you. But the idea of them trying to break free can just always add more to a side story, and also shows that these lore sheets aren't always for the pure benefit of the player involved. Investing 5 traits into this lore sheet gets you Aspiring Anziani. You have managed to work your way through the hidden politics of the family reunion and come out on top. You've done so partially from political skills and ruthless zeal, but mostly because you know where the bodies are buried in every sense. you get 5 dots of status among the Hecata, and you can get a private audience with the Capuchin every few stories. Just don't push your luck, or you'll join the corpses. The anziani. These are highly respected members of the Hecata. Specifically, anziani is an old Italian word just meaning the respected elders. I'm sure there's a better way of putting that, but that's effectively what it is. It's the respected elders. It's the council of the clan who is just highly respected because they've lasted as long as they have. And that's a phrase that has actually spread throughout the Hecata. You don't just have anziani who are Giovanni any longer. You have anziani who are the harbingers. You have anziani who are the Pisanobs, the Duncerns. Like they all have members of this highly respected elder family. And the fact that you are pretty much on the precipice of joining to the point where you get 5 points in status in the Hecata is pretty useful. The fact that you have access to a meeting with the Capuchin, also, that's pretty crazy. He orchestrated this entire thing. That one ancient vampire is the one who has brought everyone back together and stopped the infighting throughout the clan. So there is a lot he could probably get accomplished when it comes to something that you're trying to do. Maybe even help you as a Hecata gain access to territory and see where that can go in a city. I mean, I've run a full Hecata game at this point, and there's just so many little ins and outs in political things that can be accomplished when it comes to that kind of power being introduced into a game. So that is a look into the La Famiglia Giovanni lore sheet, which can be found in the Cults of the Blood Gods book, just like the majority of these are that we've been doing recently. And I think that it does lead to a whole bunch of possible good stories. The Giovanni have not been completely extinguished. They've only been pushed back a little bit in their normal power drives and what they're trying to do. And are these individuals going to take that? How long will the Hecata be the Hecata before the Giovanni find a way to rise up against them again? Is that ever going to happen? Only time is really going to tell, because death is constantly changing, and that's exactly who the Hecata, and therefore the La Famiglia Giovanni, represent, is death itself. I am Voivode Maquette, and this has been another episode of Metaplot Monday, going through the lore sheets within Cults of the Blood Gods. If you appreciate the content that I'm putting out, please drop a like, share the video, subscribe if you're not, and if you are enjoying the content that much that you'd like to help keep this going as far as, best as we can, we do have a Patreon, and we do give out status and other benefits, including early videos. So I will see you next time in the next Our World of Darkness video. Good evening.